Mhm. All right. All right. So we're live now. We are going to do this as best as we can. I think I'm going to go ahead and make this public momentarily. But yeah, I think I'm going to start doing live streams instead of what I was doing initially, which was just recording and then putting them out. I'm going to do the live stream so that more people can see uh just me making the videos in real time. So there's something that I want to talk about. Obviously, it's MAGA. It's this entire movement going away. But there's a video or a couple of videos that I want to show you specifically. So let me go ahead and pull those up, and then we are going to get rolling into this thing, and I'm going to make this public. Actually, I'm going to make it public now, and then we can continue going down this path. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Here we go. All right. So it's public now. Give people some time to join if they want to join and talk to me, chop it up with me. Meanwhile, I'm going to get set up on this video that I want to show you guys, because you have this gentleman. You have this gentleman. His name is Reverend Jordan Wells. And when I saw this video come down my timeline, I said, wait, this dude looks familiar. Where do I know him from? And I couldn't really pinpoint exactly where it was. But as the video played and I heard him say that he was in MAGA, say he was ditching MAGA, talk about why he was, I remembered where I saw him. And we're going to watch this video. But first, I want to show you the introduction that I had to him. And it was during the Jubilee debate. It was, what's that lady's name? I can't remember her name, but it was like one radical versus 20 MAGA supporters or conservatives or something like that. Let me see. I cannot remember her name for the life of me right now. Where's that video? So we're going to play that first. I'm going to show you what she has going on. What happened? Amanda Seales, that's her name. So you had this video with Amanda Seales over on Jubilee, and it says one black radical versus 20 black conservatives featuring Amanda Seales. And basically this conversation was, was centered around stuff like reparations or police brutality, stuff that was going on in the Trump administration, or that's been going on basically for black and brown people. And then conservatives basically saying, well, America's not racist, or everybody has the opportunities, or everybody's on the same playing field, right? There's some validity to that, but then there's also a legitimate argument that Amanda Seales was making, and she made quite a few points on there. She got steamrolled on some stuff, but we're not here to review the entirety of that Jubilee, that conversation. There is a specific part that I want to play, and we're going to play that as a precursor to the video that happened with Reverend Jackson Wells, I believe his name is, where he's leaving MAGA. So let's go and pull this up. Let me make sure I'm good. So this is the gentleman, Reverend Jackson Wells. He is having a conversation, like we said, with Amanda Seales. I'm going to unmute the site and pull this back up. And we're going to play the beginning of their conversation so that you can get a full context of who he is, what it is that he thinks, and what's going on in this conversation regarding reparations. Because he goes into quite a bit of his personal ideology as he veers off to talk about reparations. Let's check this out. So just to give you the full context, up here it says, it's undeniable that reparations are just and necessary. Obviously, like I said, Amanda Seales in this instance is the black radical. The people surrounding her on this Jubilee episode of Surrounded are 20 black conservatives. And the premise of the show is, hey, we have this topic, we have this person, and the first person that's surrounded that touches the chair gets to debate on the topic. So he is the second person to go. This gentleman in the back is Anthony Brian Logan, who is also a content creator. You should check him out. He has some interesting content over there. But he debated her first. Uh, this gentleman is talking to her now. That was some stupid shit to say early into the conversation. Conservatives believe in hard work, as if liberal people don't believe in hard work. And I know that people like to classify things as, oh, you're on the left, you're on the right. I tend to think, at least in my experience, most people are in the gray area, right? But it's easier to classify people and just say, oh, this is the way that you think, and this is the way that I think, and we're on opposite ends. I think a lot more people have, like, for myself, for instance, I have some social views that I say, like, hey, I align with this. And I have some conservative views where I'm like, hey, I align more with this on this side. And I think that's where most people are, right? You, unless you're on like the Mehdi Hassan video, where you're a far right conservative or you're like somebody that's on the far left. But most people live in that gray area. But she doesn't want to be identified with either of the parties. On the right, obviously, she's not. She doesn't want to be identified on the left. She has her own ideology, her own set of values that she's espousing. So she's saying she's not on the left. He's saying that you're arguing a position that's typically argued by the left. I hear this argument a lot. It's like, oh, why does America owe reparations when everybody wasn't racist or everybody didn't have slaves or black people, also had slaves? And I've got to say, I'm really tired of the argument because a lot of people are just saying like there's no need for a conversation at all about reparations. I know this video is not about reparations. I'm trying to get his ideology before we jump over to him leaving MAGA. But this conversation is really tired. It really is because there is a debt that is owed to the descendants of slavery that help contribute to the greatness of America, right? And there's an equitable way. I think it was what's that dude's name? I'm not remembering anybody's name tonight. But basically the idea was, hey, let's trace back people's lineage to the census in the 1800s, and then we could find out who are the descendants of those people that were here in the 1800s, and we could find an amount of money, not saying what that amount of money is, but we can find an equitable way to give them a monetary some monetary compensation, right? So if people wanted to do it, there is a way to do it. And people trying to basically say that nothing is owed and there's no way to pay it and we don't know and black people had slaves too. There could be an equitable way if there was an intention. Unfortunately, there isn't. That conversation has been moot, including the people that were in the Tulsa, Oklahoma race riot of 1921. I believe, I'm not sure if all of those survivors are gone now, but as recent as last year, there was a court case and the Supreme Court said, no, we don't care. We're never giving any money to anybody. So I think this is a bad faith argument when people like start talking about reparations and they try to say that there's no equitable way, there's no reason to, and there's no way to do it when there clearly is, right? Yeah, that was a good point. You're more concerned about hurting the feelings of people who didn't have slaves, which, to their credit, they were on the right side of history. They were doing the thing, they were aligning with humanity, right? Kudos to them, kudos to their ancestors. He does have a point, but then she makes an excellent counterpoint like, hey, if you're saying that these people didn't have slaves, why don't we find an equitable way to acknowledge the people that were enslaved and give them some sort of equity in this country that is, as powerful as it is? And nobody wants to have that conversation. I think that's a disingenuous argument. Like, oh, we just need the opportunity to do this. Yes, but you have the money to choose your own opportunities. When the most powerful asset that you have is cold hard cash, right? People say it's your house, it's stocks, and yes, those can increase in value, and you can get compound interest and all of that. But you never have the opportunity to have those things if you don't have the cash in the first place. So people say, "Oh, well, we pay reparations in education, or we pay reparations with DEI." In my opinion, it's not. There's no comparison to having like the monetary value. Education is important, 100%. People should go to school. People should be educated. Even if you don't go to school, you should read and become astute in something, right? But there is no replacement for having that cold hard cash that you can choose to fund your own education, um, fund your own investment in terms of like stocks or property or land or business, whatever it is, right? When people start telling you what it is that you are allowed to have and are not allowed to have in terms of like a reparation, they start controlling. They're starting to put like shackles and controls on you, and I don't like that conversation at all, right? I'm gonna We're going to play that one more time because I've been on a tangent talking about his other part of the conversation, her arguments, but this is really the crux of what I wanted to get to in his video. So let's check this out again. All right, so that was his part of the conversation, right? I believe he said some more. I don't really want to get into it. His argument is people talking about racism is what's making the racist merry-go-round, right? Obviously, that's a stupid position to have because if it doesn't exist, what would there would be no conversation to be had about racism, whether we're talking about racism back in the day or in the current like modern times. Am I saying that people are openly walking around calling people the N word or hosing people down in the streets of like Montgomery, Alabama? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that that is happening, but he makes the argument that there is no racism or there's not enough racism for you to be complaining. Any equality is too much, and any inequality is too much in inequality. I'm really trying. Anyway, you guys get the point. If there's inequality anywhere, it's a problem. It doesn't matter if it's a lot, if it's a little, just the acknowledgement that there is. He's saying, oh, well, you should just be fine with it because it's not like what it was back in the day. You elected Barack Obama. Why can't you just smile and be happy about that? It's not an argument I like. It's not an argument I agree with. But, everybody is entitled to their own mindset, their own opinion, even if it's not well received by me. So that was his opinion then, right? Just get over it. Racism doesn't exist. keep talking about it. That's why we still have racism. Okay, understood. Now let's check out the switch that he does in 2025, because just like a lot of people that are on the conservative right, this gentleman, and let me pull up his name again. His name is Jordan Wells, Mr. Jordan Wells. Within months, because this video with Jubilee came out a couple of months ago, he does an entire flip on what his ideology was then to what it is now. So let's check this out. The new Republican right, I cannot get with. The new people that are trying to take over MAGA, he cannot get with. I wonder what people those are. Because whichever people he's talking about have existed, they've been on the right. Now, I've said this in another video. I believe it was the Marjorie Taylor Greene live stream that I did a few days ago. Everybody that's on the right is not racist, but everybody that's racist, like these racist white nationalists, those people are on the right, without a doubt. I'm not saying that there aren't people that are racist on the left. I'm not saying that there aren't people that have bigotry on the left. But when you start talking about the people that he's talking about, these white nationalists, you know, people like the Nick Fuentes type, those people are on the right, 100%. You know, we saw the Charlottesville march that happened a couple of years ago. I believe that was 2017. And then Trump came out and said, there are very good people on both sides. What sides was he talking about? He was talking about the pro-Trump MAGA side that this gentleman is leaving. And then he was talking about the left, the Antifa folks that were fighting against them. So when he makes the argument, oh, I need to leave because there are people that are racist that are now joining MAGA, those people have been there, right? It's not everybody, not everybody. There are plenty of people that believe in the vision that Donald Trump stole, and whether he's living up to that promise or not is an entirely different video. But the people that are aligned with MAGA that are racist, like these white nationalists, they've been there. Maybe they weren't as prominent voices, right? Because Nick Fuentes has talked about how his stock has risen in the past couple of months to a year ever since, you know, the conflict over in the Middle East. But these people have existed. They're becoming more prominent voices, and you're starting to see those people as they get notoriety, they're lashing out at other prominent voices. This is what Marjorie Taylor Greene is experiencing right now. People are in her comments telling her, oh, she's anti-MAGA, and they start with the misogynist stuff, right? Because she's a white lady, so they can't say anything racist about her. So they start with the extremely misogynist stuff. They start getting in her comments. You got this gentleman, Jordan Wells. He's getting his wake-up call that even though you were aligned in ideology, you're not aligned in everything with these white nationalists. So they're going to start calling you things that you thought based on your Jubilee video, right? We just went over the Jubilee video where he said racism was over. They start calling him names. They start posting memes and pictures. And this is what we always knew about the far right conservatives, the people that were in MAGA but were on the fringe in the past. So he can say as much as he wants, like, oh, this, you know, this movement is new, or these people are new. These people have existed. Maybe you were blind because you wanted to continue to follow Trump, or it was advantageous, or you could make a name for yourself as a commentator that was black and on, you know, on the side with MAGA. But, you know, you made that bed and you've got to sleep in it. So that's your candle to hold. That's your cross to bear. Let's keep going into this, see what else he has to say. But I thought the right didn't do any identity politics. So why does it matter that you're a black American man? So you're telling me that they do actually care about identity politics. If you're specifying your race, your gender, and you're saying that matters to the people that are on the right, then you're telling me that as much as those right, whether they be conservatives or whether they be the far right, it did matter. The identity politics did matter to them. It was just a talking point to rail or like own the libs, right? To rail against the people that were on the left. These people, they're hypocrites, man. They're hypocrites. It was good for you when, when you were making money off of being a black MAGA guy, when you could get up on Jubilee and argue that racism is a thing of the past. It was good for you. But then when it comes to affect you, then you're like, oh, I can't align with this as a black guy. What about all the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people before you that have experienced this? And you discounted their experience saying like, oh, we got Obama in '08, so racism doesn't exist anymore. That's true. So he's getting into something that I have no comment on. It's not really like a part of the conversation I'm going to get into, right? I'm not a Christian. I don't have any thoughts about that. But now the tides of turning. Now the tides are turning. He wants to double back and say, "Oh, well, I'm not a part of that movement." You've been a part of the movement for all of this time, helped it gain notoriety, helped it gain publicity, went and peddled these ideas on the Jubilee episode, and now you want to abandon ship as it's becoming less popular, and the people that have always been in this movement are becoming louder voices. I know that like you can't just like hold somebody a candlelight to somebody and be like, you believe this, now you have to stay with that forever. I don't believe in that at all. But I don't like this sentiment where it's like, oh, I'm just going to flip my views now that it's not advantageous to me. And like you helped push this. The same thing with Margie Taylor Greene. I made a video about her and AOC, like calling her out, and people were like, "Oh, well, you have to denounce everything that Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing because she did this in the past." And I said, "No, you can absolutely acknowledge that the stuff that she's doing now, you align with, and you can use her voice, right? People might feel a way that I said use, but you're in the world to be useful and allow other people to be useful for you, right? So I don't think that's selfish. I don't think it's disrespectful to say that. You are here to be useful, and you are here to allow other people to be useful for you. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever she said in the past, you can acknowledge that she said those things, and you can say, okay, this lady can be useful to the ideas that I'm trying to push, the narrative that I'm trying to push in terms of at the time the Affordable Care Act, or right now the Epstein files. You can say that you didn't align with certain things. You could denounce her, whatever it is that you want to do personally, and then acknowledge the fact that she's on the right side. And I say that to say I don't want to necessarily tell him that he has to always be aligned with the MAGA movement, right? He can speak out now, and he can shine a light to the fact that there were racist people that existed in here, and he's just now finding out. But we also have to acknowledge, like, you helped push this ideology, and it was already popular, but you became a voice, an additional voice for whoever follows you, whoever's paying attention to you, to give this thing legitimacy, right? And now people that were MAGA are starting to go like this America First route. They're saying, okay, well, I like these ideas, and and I went up with the tide, but now that the boat is crashing, I want to jump ship. And I just say that, I don't necessarily like it, but I do acknowledge it. And I do think that if you're going to use your voice for something better, something more advantageous, then okay, perfectly fine. We will find a use for you. You will be useful. We appreciate you. What else? I thought this was pretty crazy. So we had this thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's going back and forth with Trump, and it's starting to get ugly, right? She's talking about how she feels attacked, how she's starting to get threats, how she's starting to need bodyguards. And I want to pull up her tweet because it got 24 million views. Let's check this out. It says, I am now being contacted by private security firms with warnings for my safety as a hotbed of threats against me are being fueled and egged on by the most powerful man in the world. Obviously, she's talking about Donald Trump, right? The president. Him saying that she's a traitor, Marjorie Traitor Green, all of this stuff, right? The man I supported and helped get elected. Aggressive rhetoric attacking me has historically led to death threats and multiple convictions of men who were radicalized by the same type of rhetoric being directed at me right now. This time by the President of the United States. As a woman, I take threats from men seriously. I now have a small understanding of the fear and pressure the women who are victims of Jeffrey Epstein and his cabal must feel. As a Republican who overwhelmingly votes for President Trump's bills and agenda, his aggression against me, which also fuels the venomous nature of his radical internet trolls, many of whom are paid, this is completely shocking to everyone. That's funny. Being being new to making content and all of this stuff, I didn't realize that people get paid to peddle views, right? I kind of understood like, okay, we're on this side, we argue these points, but I never really thought that people get literal money to go out there and like push propaganda, whether they believe it or not, right? And it's just, to me, it's mind blowing, but this is the world we live in. I'm not doing that. I'm telling you my unfiltered, unadulterated thoughts about what's going on in the world. That's what I'm here to do. The channel is literally Say It Louder. It's a play on my name, but I don't know any other way to say what I have to say out in the world than just bluntly saying it, right? It gets me in some trouble sometimes, especially, it gets me in some trouble sometimes, but it is what it is, right? If I'm not anything else, I'm pretty authentic. It says, my phone is blowing up with constant, amazing support. I'm so thankful. The political industrial complex and the toxic, violent nature of American politics must end. Our country is worth saving. It can only be done if we pull together and save ourselves. Once again, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a Republican. She is a conservative. She did run in the MAGA regime, right? Like she was one of Trump's mouthpieces. And she has since been taking opposition to some things that she doesn't necessarily agree with. She's speaking out against Republicans. She's speaking out against her party. And the president has taken exception to that. Because at the end of the day, as much as people say that like MAGA is just a political party, it's a cult. And the cult is, hey, if you don't go along to get along with whatever the president says or does, then you're being ostracized. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's been sticking up for people that she represents, right? She's in the House and she represents folks over in Georgia. So she's been sticking up saying, hey, this is not good for the people in my district, or, hey, I don't align with this. And for that, because she's not like sticking with the party line or voting how Republicans are supposed to vote, people are burning her at the stake for it, notably Donald Trump. So he's mad about it. Other people are mad about it. They're saying that she can go ahead and be like, telling her basically like, go be a liberal since you want to care about people having Affordable Care Act subsidies, or since you want to care about the Epstein files coming out, go be a blue-haired liberal. So that is one Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then I wanted to get into this reply. This is Laura Loomer. She's a MAGA loyalist. You see down here. Oh, yeah. She does have kind of a interesting face, right? So people are making fun of her. They're saying she has $271,000 from AIPAC. I don't know if that's true, and that's not the point of what I'm about to read here. It says, in her reply, Laura Loomer's reply to Marjorie Taylor Greene, it says, "You're a millionaire, bitch. Go hire security if you're so afraid of President Trump. You look pathetic accusing Trump of inciting violence against you. He never did such a thing. You're a compulsive liar and a fraud. Enjoy your new radical left friend's full-time victim." What's interesting about this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's been doing like a media run, and one of the things that she said on this media run was, "Hey, when the president said this, it made me fearful because you don't know the people that support anybody, whether it be people on the left, people on the right. There are crazy people out in the world, like people that are batshit crazy will listen to what Trump is saying and take it to heart and then internalize it and go and do violence, right? There are people like that in the world. And I'm not discounting that. I'm not discounting what Marjorie Taylor Greene is feeling or saying because of that. Because there, people say that you look at a situation like what happened with Charlie Kirk, right? That's what she said in the interview is she started thinking about all this stuff that happened with Charlie Kirk. It's making her kind of reevaluate some stuff, reevaluate this political violence. Remember that we're all Americans fighting for the betterment of Americans. You look at that, right? The thing what happened with Charlie Kirk, which was ideologically based. The gentleman said, like hold this fascist or hold this whatever he wrote on the rounds. Then you look at the situation with Luigi Mangione when he killed Brian Thompson, the CEO, the United Health Group CEO. All of these things were because somebody disagreed with somebody's actions or ideology. So when the president, to his loud base, yells or types or true socials or whatever the terminology is, "Hey, this person is a traitor. Hey, this person has lost their mind. Hey, this person is no longer aligned with us." There are a certain faction of people that don't have all their screws loose, right? That used to be, that need to be monitored. They're not monitored and they're free to roam out in the world and they might just cause harm on somebody if given the chance and the opportunity. So, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, like we said, she was on the right. She is doing like not a 180. She still says she's a Trump supporter. She's a MAGA supporter. She just says she wants to focus on different priorities than what is being prioritized by her party right now. So when you look at the fact that she's in some people's eyes switching on the party or betraying the party, and then you have people that are constantly attacking her for it, there's going to be somebody that is not just in the media. There's going to be somebody that's not just saying words at her that may hurt her feelings or she may hurt their feelings. It's going to be somebody that doesn't have too much to lose. They might see her, they might go find her, and they could possibly do something to her. So as much as we're talking about this political violence and things that could happen, people are not taking it serious. And people never take things serious until it's too late. So hopefully nothing happens to Marjorie Taylor Greene, but you never know. This is the way things are in the world, man. It's crazy people out here. I've been talking a lot. I need some water. I've only got like a fifth of a bottle left, but we're going to make it work. This is Scott Jennings getting called out over on CNN, which I really like. This dude, Scott Jennings, he fashions himself as like an intellectual. He's always got this smug look on his face, like wait until they finish talking. I'm about to hit him with some shit. And then that doesn't happen. It happens every once in a while, but he doesn't really like come with hard hitting points. He's just like talking into the wind. Nobody's really paying attention to him. I don't think the rest of the panel takes him seriously. They look at him as the MAGA mouthpiece for CNN so that he can get dunked on, right? Adam Mockler has come up there and dunked on him, and multiple times. Adam Mockler is like 22, 23. Scott, assuming, I'm going to show you what he looks like. I'm not entirely sure how old he is, but I would assume he's like in his early 50s and repeatedly getting dunked on by a 23-year-old. So I'm not going to get into this clip right now. I may make another video about it. Actually, let's go ahead. Let's check this out. This is also about Marjorie Taylor Greene. This says Trump pulls support for lunatic Taylor Greene. Let's check this out. Before the gentleman replies, Scott Jennings said the fastest way to get on TV is to be a Republican bashing Republicans. What he said there is actually is true, right? But I think we need to add a little bit of caveat for the situation with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I say that it's true because if you look at like black conservatives, people don't necessarily expect black people to be conservatives. They expect us to generally like vote left, or uh, they try to say that like black people rely on the welfare state, even though the statistics show that white people use it more. Doesn't matter. That's not part of the conversation right now. We're not going to get into that. But there is some legitimacy to what Scott Jennings is saying. Like if you're on the left, if you're on the right and you're bashing people on the right, somebody like Nick Fuentes, somebody like what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing, then there is going to be a certain amount of attention because people are like, wait, we expect you to just go along to get along. We don't expect you to say that you're upset or you dislike something that your group is doing, right? And that's what happens with black people. Like we talked about the gentleman, Jason or Jonathan Wells, the Reverend Jonathan Wells. He's a black guy. He's a conservative. People are intrigued by that because it's something that is out of the norm or what they expect. But it's outside of the caricature that they have of black people in politics. So there is some truth to what Scott Jennings is saying, but let's see what this reply is. Oh, that's before we get into that. What I wanted to say is just because Marjorie Taylor Greene is going against her party, what people call going against her party, doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't believe or like she's just doing it out of spite. It could very well be that she is looking at the landscape and saying, hey, this stuff doesn't serve the people that I serve, right? When they started cutting the Affordable Care Act subsidy, she said, well, I didn't necessarily like the Affordable Care Act subsidies. It made my family's insurance go up from $800 a month to $2,400 a month. But, you know, she's a millionaire. She could pay $2,400 a month. I'm assuming. I'm not sure what her expenses are. But she said, my constituents are poor people and they need these subsidies in order to have health care. And even though I don't like them necessarily, let's leave them in place for a minute and work on something else as the Republicans can introduce. That was her argument. I think that's a worthwhile argument. I think it's a good argument. I think it's a fair argument. But nobody wants to hear that. People want you to shut up and just agree regardless of what's going on, regardless of if your constituents want you to argue on their behalf. It's like, hey, you're in politics. Yeah, these people elevated you, but you're not really here to serve them. You're here to serve us. And they expect blind loyalty because of that. And I like the fact that whether it's on the left or the right, people are not just towing the line anymore. People are not just saying, oh, well, you know, I'm going to do this because this is the way that things were done in the past. The things that were done in the past have not worked. That's why, not to beat a dead horse, that's why people like Trump can get elected, right, twice. That's why people like Zohran Mamdani can get elected, because people are like, these ideas are so polarizing, but we've seen the result of the things that you guys have been pushing in the past. Whether you say capitalism is great, whether you say capitalism sucks, the majority of people are losing the game. And in order to stop losing the game, they're like, let's try something different. So I like that people aren't just doing the status quo. They're not just laying down and letting other people tell them what to say. During the shutdown, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, hey, I'm not going to talk the talking points. Now, I've gone on a tangent, right? Let's get back to this clip. Let's see what this gentleman has to say to Scott Jennings, basically accusing Marjorie Taylor Greene of turning against the Republicans so she can get some airtime. If you're not aware of this whole stuff with the Epstein files. I don't want to necessarily get into it, but what he's talking about is Donald Trump is asking the DOJ to start probing into some Democrats, essentially. But the whole point is Scott Jennings is saying, oh, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene is turning against Republicans so she can get airtime. This gentleman that is arguing against Scott Jennings, I don't know his name, Miles Taylor, he's saying, okay, well, 10 years ago, you said that Donald Trump was an authoritarian. You said Donald Trump was an evil person. And now that it's advantageous to you, right? Like you're on CNN to be a Republican mouthpiece. Oh, you guys didn't even see it. I don't think. I'm not sure. But he's saying like, hey, now that you're on CNN to be a Republican mouthpiece, you're doing the exact same thing on a daily basis that you're accusing Marjorie Taylor Greene of, right? So that's where we are with MAGA right now. You got the gentleman, Jonathan Wells, he's leaving. He realized that some people in MAGA are racist, right? Like we said, not all conservatives, not everybody in MAGA, but all the racists are over there. So you got Marjorie Taylor Greene leaving, you got that gentleman leaving, and the thing is just falling apart. This pet project where people started aligning with Donald Trump and they thought that he was going to make their lives better. And, you know, it's been a minute, bro. Love the setup. Still waiting on that hat link. Much love. You know what? The hats actually came in today. They literally came in today. I was going to do an unboxing and a reveal, but the kids asleep, so I didn't want to, start waking them up, ripping through the box or anything. But they are here. I'm going to get the YouTube shop set up, so they will be up. If not tomorrow, then definitely Wednesday. And of course, I appreciate you. I can't wait to check out your channel as well. MAGA is crumbling, man. Whatever it used to be, whatever people thought that was happening with Trump trying to make America great again, it's really there to serve himself. It's there to serve the people that are in power. And that's honestly, that's the way things go. People get into power. They're like, hey, I found a way to make this stuff advantageous to me. And, as their money goes up, as their influence goes up, their power, connections, all of this stuff, they kind of throw people to the wayside. And in Marjorie Taylor Greene's situation, she's like, wait a minute, we've been doing this thing, just going along to get along, and it's not working for the people in my district. It's not working for me anymore. I have to speak up and say something. You have people like Thomas Massie, the 4 Republicans that initially signed the Epstein files. It's so many people that are coming out, starting to turn their back on this, like America, on this MAGA movement, and saying it's not actually putting America first. Let's go do something else. And to be honest with you on that, Trump is starting to spiral because of that. One thing you could say about Donald Trump is he has a pulse on what's going on with Republicans. He uses his weight to kind of like bully people. And now that he's seeing that he's losing his grip, he's starting to panic. That's why you're getting the proposal for the 50-year mortgage. That's why you're getting the proposal for the $2,000 tariff check. These things may or may not come to, I don't think that the checks are coming to fruition at all. I think that he thinks that the 50-year mortgage is a good idea, but nobody wants to be a debt slave for 50 years, right? Nobody actually wants that. The $2,000 tariff checks, he's saying like, oh, I'll give you guys some money if you just shut up about Epstein, if you just shut up about high grocery prices, if you just shut up about all of this stuff that I'm doing in the cities. So he's losing his grip. And, it is what it is. But that is going to be the episode for today. I'm starting to sweat it's getting hot. I got some kids. I got a family. I got to get back to them. But if you tuned in, I appreciate you. Like I said, if you've been around the channel for a while, you might have known that we had some hats that were coming. These hats that we're going to launch on the channel. They will be a link under the videos, I believe. That's where it goes for the YouTube shop. If you would like to support, please, by all means, support. If you got a bald head that you want to cover up like mine, the hats will be there. And if not, I just appreciate you watching the video. I appreciate you guys commenting, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I like the engagement. I like to learn. I like to have the conversation just to see what people are thinking. Am I wrong? Are you wrong? We all learn every single day. Anyway, that's been it. Till next time.